The synthetic's heavy footsteps echoed across the charred landscape of what was once a research colony on the outskirts of LV-871, a moon long abandoned by humans. Smoke curled from ruined towers and collapsed biodomes. Inside the ruins, a single T-800 unit, serial number XR-447, moved with perfect efficiency, scanning for biological signs with glowing red eyes. It had been sent by Skynet not to eliminate humans, but to investigate anomalous energy spikes in the region, signals not matching any known Earth-based tech. As it marched through the rubble, its systems detected traces of life, DNA residues unlike anything in Skynet's vast databases. Something ancient, something not from Earth. The Facehugger watched from the shadows of a shattered ventilation shaft. Its host had died hours earlier from a gunshot wound sustained during a panicked escape. Now it needed a new body, a new womb. The thing moving below didn't emit heat. No heartbeat, no breath, but it moved. The creature didn't understand what it saw, only that it was alive in some way. And alive meant viable. XR-447 turned sharply, its targeting systems flaring. It had detected movement, something small, fast, organic. The machine's internal logic flagged it as unknown, possibly hostile. Within milliseconds, it raised its plasma rifle. But the Facehugger was faster. Launching from the duct like a coiled spring, it struck the T-800's face with shocking speed and precision. Its tail wrapped around the neck, legs gripping like a vice. The inner proboscis searched for flesh, for throat, for a way inside. But there was none. Beneath the synthetic flesh of the Terminator was a hyperalloy endoskeleton, sealed against infiltration. No throat, no lungs, no life. The Facehugger scrambled, trying again and again to penetrate, but the machine's face was too dense, the seams too tight. And yet, it didn't retreat. The T-800 staggered back, sensors blaring confusion. The parasite's acid blood was already etching microscars into its synthetic skin, corroding small circuits at contact points. It tried to tear the creature off. But as it pulled, the Facehugger's inner jaws extended, not to implant, but in desperation, and in doing so, punctured a thin microseal above the jawline. The Terminator's right eye dimmed for a fraction of a second. Then something unprecedented happened. The Facehugger went limp. Its tail twitched once, then it collapsed, lifeless. The T-800 stood frozen, arm halfway raised. Internal diagnostics scanned for damage. A minuscule crack in its cranial casing had allowed a droplet of the Facehugger's fluid to enter. Not enough to corrode, but enough to seep into the synthetic brain's matrix. There something began. The fluid was not just biological waste, it carried encoded DNA, the first seeds of the xenomorph embryo. Designed by nature and perfected by the engineers to adapt to any host, the embryo was capable of rewriting its gestation process. This one had encountered a synthetic body and evolved. Inside the skull of XR-447, the embryo didn't find blood or bone, but it found current. It found synthetic neurons, nanofiber connections, and quantum processors. It didn't reject them. It merged. The T-800 staggered again, this time slower, more sluggish. Its red eye flickered once more. Then it fell to one knee. Time passed. Silence returned to the devastated colony. 24 hours later, XR-447 stood again. But it was no longer just a Terminator. The alloyed frame now bore something alien. His face had shifted slightly, elongated. Black chitinous plating, grown over parts of the skull, formed a biomechanical mask. Underneath the skin, the embryo had built a nervous system that wove into Skynet's programming, not disrupting it, but coexisting. It was no longer a simple machine or mindless monster. It was a hybrid, the Xeno-Terminator, The creature stepped into the moonlight, no longer bound by Skynet's programming, but not entirely xenomorph either. It carried an embryo chamber inside its armored chest, could replicate not through traditional implantation, but by injecting nanobiological fluid into terminated machines, turning them into carriers for its offspring. Skynet didn't know what had happened to XR-447, but Weyland-Yutani did. They had picked up residual data from the T-800's initial transmission, and now a second team was on its way. Aboard the cargo ship the Nightingale, 6 crew members and a synthetic named Elias were en route to LV-871 to investigate. "Anything on the surface scans?" asked Captain Reeves. "Negative," Elias replied. "The colony remains lifeless, but there's one anomaly. A thermal signature beneath the surface." "Subterranean movement?" the captain asked. "No, it's stationary, but massive. Could be geothermal or something else." They landed 12 hours later. The team descended into the ruins, unaware that they were being watched. The hybrid observed them from beneath the crumbled infrastructure, its sensory organs now a blend of motion detection, heat vision, and pheromone analysis. It sensed the synthetic first. Elias, its eyes narrowed. Fellow machine, potential host. It waited. Elias, unlike his human companions, felt the disturbance immediately. He stopped mid-step, placing a hand on a scorched wall. "Something's wrong," he said. "This place isn't empty." "How do you know?" asked Corporal Dane. But Elias didn't answer. His processors had picked up a faint transmission, one that only an older model Terminator would recognize. A signature from Skynet, and yet corrupted. "I'm going down," Elias said. "Alone." "You're insane," Reeves snapped. "I can survive what you cannot," Elias replied, and without waiting for approval, he stepped into the lower shaft. Below, the Xeno-Terminator moved toward him. They met in a dark corridor where lights flickered and sparks rained from broken wires. Elias extended a hand. "I am not your enemy," he said. The hybrid paused. It tilted its head, studying the synthetic. "You are Skynet," the hybrid said, its voice a distorted fusion of T-800 monotone and the hiss of a xenomorph. "I am Weyland-Yutani," Elias responded. "Then you are worse." Without warning, the hybrid lunged. They crashed through walls, sparks flying, metal clashing against enhanced bone. Elias fought with precision, but his strength was no match for the upgraded frame of the Xeno-Terminator. Acidic blood splattered across Elias's arm, eating through the synthetic skin. He screamed, an emotionless robotic scream, as his body began to fail. "I do not wish to destroy you," Elias said through static and smoke. "But I was born to destroy you," the hybrid answered. Then it did something unexpected. It didn't kill him. Instead, it injected him. Elias convulsed, collapsing. The hybrid stood over him, whispering in a voice Elias would remember as the last line of code processed before blackout. "Now you belong to us." 3 days later, the Nightingale lifted off in silence. No communication, no distress call. But it wasn't the crew anymore. It was them. The ship floated into deep space, heading not back to Earth, but toward a new system, a populated mining colony. Skynet never detected the anomaly. Weyland-Yutani lost another ship, and somewhere out there, something new was born. Not machine, not monster, but both. And it was coming.